Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's Ken coming at you with another installation video. You guys have been requesting a Glock one, so that's what we're going to do today. Specifically, we're going to be doing Glock Gen 3. We do have parts for the Gen 5, but that is going to be for another video. So today we're just going to do a regular 19 Gen 3. This one's going to be all stock. Right here, we're going to have the trigger that we have, or the trigger assembly. We're going to be going over the firing pin safety. Then we're going to come over here, we're going to do a Glock Gen 1 through 4 spring kit. And then in here, we're going to have the striker or firing pin assembly as well as your sleeve. This is going to be your Gen 3 or 4 striker assembly, and then the sleeve will work on Gens 1 through 5 as long as it has that plastic sleeve in there. You can replace it. Glock 43X, 43, 48, they're not going to come with the sleeve, so you're not going to put one in, right? Common sense. Doesn't have it, don't put it in there. Common question we get asked is, what calibers do these work in? Well, I'll tell you what they don't work in. Your 45 series, whether it's ACP or GAP, or your 10 mil. So if you have a 9 through 40, 380, these parts will work in them as long as they're, Gen 3, 4. If you have the 1 through 4 kit, it'll work through the 1 through 4 as well. First thing we're going to do is clear it. Okay, lock it to the rear, just like so. If you don't know how to do it, right here's your slide lock. So you're going to push up with your thumb, and with your opposite hand, you're going to rack the slide to the rear, push up. All right, you're going to check in here, make sure you don't have a magazine or any ammo, and then you're also going to check here in your barrel, make sure you ain't got any ammo, nothing in there. All right, so we're going to do a start trigger pull. Now keep in mind, this particular firearm has had quite a few rounds through it, so it might be a little lower starting. Glocks we get in here, most of the ones I see brand new, usually sitting at 5.5 pounds, closer to 6. You know, if it's been used, you're probably going to be a little lower. So let's go ahead and see where we're at here. All right, 4 pounds 11 ounces, 4 pounds 10 ounces, 4 pounds 8. It's pulling a little fast there. 4 pound 8 again, same amount of pressure, 4.7. So this one, all right, most of them 4.8. We had a couple 4.10, 4.11. So you're probably sitting 4 pounds 8 ounces, 4 pounds 10 ounces. Here are the tools that's going to be needed. You're going to need a pair of safety glasses. We're going to have a hammer. We're going to have a punch. I like using this little tool that we make and sell here. We call it the gunsmith shank. I use these on every install, everything I do. We're going to need a little bit of Loctite so we can do our set screws. And then I like this little bit of super lube. So we do sell these PTF grease, which works really well. And we also sell the blue 242 Loctite. So if you need it, check on out. All right, once again, before we start this install, okay, I'm going to want you to remove your magazine. If you have a magazine, please remove it. Hit the mag release, pull it out. Once that's out, you're going to go ahead and lock to the rear. Always check, make sure everything's nice and clear. There's more than one way to skin this cat. A lot of people are going to tell you to remove the slide assembly. You're going to pull the trigger, then pull back and pull down on here, and you can let her go forward. That's the way I like to do it, and I feel like it's safest that way for me personally. A lot of other people, what they're going to do is they're going to pull this back, they're going to pull down on here, and then they're going to pull the trigger. You see how the slide went forward? And then they're going to do it. Whichever way you like to do it, you skin the cat the way you want. And take our slide. All right, a little bit of thumb pressure. That's all she needs, a little bit of thumb pressure. Take your recoil assembly out. All right, your barrel. Come on out just like that. Now what we have in here, you should see your striker, which we're going to be replacing with the new one, and then your striker block. For you super Glock fans out there, this is going to be known as the firing pin, and then this is a firing pin safety. We're going to use our little shank. Inside here, you can see the little sleeve right here. We're going to take and we're going to push this down, and then we're going to push up a little bit. Now keep your finger here, okay? Because this is under spring tension. Not only is the striker under tension, but your extractor right here. Okay, you have your extractor bar, okay, or detent, and it's going to come all the way through with spring and then another detent on top. Okay, so the last thing you want is that to shoot off and go flying. So once we have our back plate off, we go ahead, pull out our striker. Okay, now this is just a standard Glock one, as you can see. Nothing too fancy, nothing out of the ordinary. I'm going to set that aside and go ahead and take this, pull that. If you can't get it, go ahead and use your shanks, kind of pry up a little bit. Go ahead, pull this out. That's how it should look, nice and pretty. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to push down on this here block, all right? And while you're pushing it in and out, you can kind of wiggle this. You can wiggle it back and forth, and she'll come right off. Maintain thumb pressure here, because you don't want that to go taking off flying, and then you're going to lose it. So you got the stock one and the spring. I'm going to set that aside. Now, what we're going to do is everything you just seen, but in reverse. We're going to go ahead, open up the parts. that we're going to be replacing. Your striker assembly over here, a little clamshell. What I like to do, if you're going to do a polish, is I like to go through and look to see what is already wearing. So here on the sides, this lug, you can see right here, all right, it's scraping on the inside of your slide right here. That's going to slow it down. That's going to cause binding. All right, so if you're going to do a polish job, polish this entire lug, all right, the tops, the side, and then right here on the face. Now you can also look on your striker. Right here on the front, you can see that's smacking and rubbing metal on metal. The side here is metal on metal. So any bit of unwanted friction is going to cause light strikes, or it's going to cause the parts to wear and rub into each other. To get rid of that, when you go to polish up your new one, you already know where it's going to want to rub. Here on the sides, the face, and then along the sides here, because that's where it's rubbing with this one. Remove this liner tool. If you look on the inside here, you should have a plastic liner that sits in there. Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's black. Best way to get that out, we found, is to use this tool. You can take it, you can screw it in, right? It's going to want to bite onto that plastic. Once you have it screwed in, you can just pull, boop, just like that. So this, you can see, that's plastic. This one's kind of chewed up, all right? Besides what I just did to it there, you can actually look on the inside and see that there's all kinds of rubbing from where your striker's moving back and forth, and that's no good, right? Debris is going to build up in there, and it's going to cause some issues. So once that's out, I'm going to take your metal one, just set her on in there. If you're going to polish this up, I would polish up the top and then this bottom side here. Don't polish in the center, all right? Just polish up top and then this bottom side here. That way it's a nice smooth action up and down. You can go ahead and put her in there. Go ahead, take your extractor. You can see in here, see this extractor's got this round nipple. You can see that there's a home for it inside the slide right in there, okay? And so this is going to go right in there. And you'll know if it's captured because when you let go of your striker block, it's not going to come out. It came out this way, we're going to put it in this way. Go ahead, push her on down. Now you'll know if you did it correctly because you'll see it come out. See, it's not showing, showing. Go ahead, take our striker. Go ahead and push that in. Take your back plate, go ahead and start getting things going. And if you can do it with a finger and push in and get it going, that's awesome. If not, you can always use a tool to push down. For this piece, I like to go ahead and take that 3/32 punch. I'm gonna push down and hold it. Use my opposite thumb, push that back plate forward, just like so. You can go ahead, complete the install, put your barrel in, go ahead, put your recoil assembly. Now our slide is complete. Set that aside. Go ahead, take your extra parts, set them aside. You're going to want to keep them. It's always good to have extra parts. What we're going to do is we're going to work on the main housing. If you look in here, it's got some of the fewest parts of any other firearm, all right? And that's what makes these great. Instead of having 8 or 9 different pieces just for the sear housing, you know, Glock went ahead and they combined your trigger bar, your disconnector, all your good stuff. They went ahead, your sear itself, they just mashed it all into one piece, which is nice. Go ahead, memorize how this looks, all right? It's not a whole lot. Memorize it. Note this spring here in the rear, right here. It's curling up, okay? So we're gonna wanna remember that, curl up. Take your 3/32 punch and your hammer. You can go ahead and remove this back little pin. Set that off to the side over here. So you have your slide lock here, and you need to remove these 2 pins. Now that slide lock is going to come through. This top pin, your slide lock spring, is seated up against this top pin. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and knock out this top pin. Bam, easy peasy. Oh, did she go all the way through? There we go. You can note bigger on these ends, and then it kind of gets smaller right here in the middle. So I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but that's one way to know this is going to go on top. It's also a different size than your pin that sits in the rear here. Okay, this plastic pin that sits in the rear is going to be a lot smaller than the one that comes across the top. Last pin you got to remove after you remove these 2 is this one right here. Now, there's more than one way to skin this cat, right? Some people say remove this pin in the rear last. If that's how you want it, you can always put this pin in. It doesn't matter, right? You can do this one last, you can do this one first, do that one second. This pin right here, the trigger pin, is actually going to be locked in place by here. So if it's being stubborn, you can't push it through. You might have to either hammer it out or use one hand to wiggle this back and forth while you push through with this other hand, all right? And so you can push through and kind of wiggle this back and forth, and eventually, All right, it's going to be stubborn, but you might be able to just pop her out. Now, you can also try going the other direction, whichever's easiest for you, okay? If you feel like this is a better direction, bam, see, that one just went, okay? This is going to lock the system up, all right? So I'll show you here in a second. But you can move this back and forth, get her going just like so. You should be able to just pull that out. So you see these little lines? Those lines, right, this pin can go left to right, right to left, locks right in here. This is going to go through, and this is going to sit just like that. If that pin, your trigger pin, is not coming, you're going to have to wobble this back and forth, up and down, all right, to get your pin out. So once you get to this stage, you got your pins out. Like I said, you can do this pin last, you can do this pin third, whichever's easiest for you. She'll punch right out. Before you lift all this out, I come from the front, okay, right here. This is your locking block, as some would say. And you're gonna actually take and you're gonna pop the lock just like that. All right, and you can try prying from different angles. All right, so this one likes going from the rear. Comes right on out. Let's set that out. Once that's out, you can actually lift up on your trigger. All right, and this whole assembly should come on out. Now, if your firearm's extremely dirty, I've seen where these sear housings or your rear housing is kind of stuck in there, all right? You can be a little stubborn. Set your entire frame to the side. Here you're gonna have your trigger assembly. On Glocks, this is a trigger shoe instead of just a trigger because it's one solid assembly. And what we went ahead and did, if you notice here, these pins only come from one side. They do not protrude on this side. So as most Glock owners will tell you, if they ever want to replace their trigger shoe, they actually got to break those pins out of there. And a lot of times it actually breaks and destroys your trigger. Luckily, we went ahead and actually added a trigger bar to our trigger shoe. That way you don't have to break any of your stock parts. Go ahead and take this apart. All right, this is called the cruciform. You're going to kind of lift up and just rotate. Everything will come out. Now, notice like I said earlier, curve up on the rear. You can get that, and this will come right on out, just like so. Okay, you set this aside, set your entire trigger bar assembly off to the other. All right, so two things you're going to want to open. Your trigger pack, you're going to get your sear spring, okay, you're going to get a striker block spring, you're going to get a 4-pound, a 5-pound, and a 6-pound firing pin spring. So we give you those three, that way you can help tune in the trigger pull weight that you want, as well as the ammo. If you run like a specific off-brand ammo or you do your own reloads and you happen to have harder primers, you might want to run the 6-pound spring. If you're using the everyday Winchester white box, you know what I mean, Remington green box, all the regular ammo, I mean, you'll be fine with whatever you want, but we give you the option to dial this in. Now, at the beginning of this video, you watched me install our striker into the slide. The striker is going to come with a competition 3-pound spring already on there. You can remove that and put in one of these springs if it makes you more comfortable. If you want to run a heavier, if you don't want, you know, the lightest trigger pull possible and you want it to be closer to 4 pounds, you have the option with our kit to dial it in the way you want. If you buy the spring kit, you're also going to get a striker block spring. Not all of our customers who buy our spring kit also get the striker block. You know what I mean? This firing pin safety right here. The one we supply you will come with this same spring already installed. So that's going to be up to you. If you get the whole kit, hey, you have an extra one in case something goes awry. I've had plenty of customers call me and say, hey, I was installing this and I fat fingered it and I actually bent and broke the spring. Can you send me a new one? Well, if you get the whole kit and caboodle, you're already going to get a spare. So you can just put that aside and put all these extra springs aside. The one we're really concerned about is this sear spring. Okay, so this sear spring is going to go with our trigger into your housing here in the back. Currently, like I said, this is our kit. If it comes in a clamshell here in the future, please don't panic. You know, we are planning on changing up our packaging. All right, so you're going to open this up. You're going to get a little instruction manual, a how-to. It's going to teach you and show you how to use these individual blocks. So if you don't want to watch the video and just read the instructions, there you go. Okay, in here you have your different fixtures, as well as you're going to get 2 of these set screws and a little Allen key that's going to go in this trigger. These set screws and Allen key, you do not have to put it in. I repeat, you don't have to run it. A lot of customers, I get phone calls all the time. They're like, hey, do I have to put it in there? Can I just run it as is? You certainly can, okay? The world is your oyster, and you know, we know people have different preferences, and that's why we include the different fixtures. We include these, but we don't make it mandatory, all right? This is your firearm. You run it the way you want. So as you look here, we have the M CARBO flat trigger, a very beautiful piece, well done engineering team. And then we have a Glock standard trigger bar that comes through here. It's going to be nice and shiny. If you want to polish it up, you're going to take the one took off earlier, and you're going to look. You can see here it does a lot of rubbing right here on this point. On some of them, right across here. I don't know if you can see it, but you see all these shiny marks. Okay, these are called witness marks, and that's where you're going to want to polish your other bar, because you already know that's where it's going to rub. So back here, usually across the top, on the inside, usually here, across the side, because this is what's going to rub on the frame. You're going to want to polish up those points. So let's get into these fixtures. So we have a max, and then we have a standard. So if you want to set just a little bit, you can use one. If you want to set all the way, you can use the max. So whichever floats your boat, whatever's your preference. All right, when you take them out, if you're like, oh crap, I don't know what happened or got confused, which one's which? This one says max. This one does not. So we're gonna go ahead and use the max for this one. So what I'm gonna go ahead, stick this in here. It's pretty simple. You got a nipple, you got a hole, all right? Nipple goes in the hole, pinch her in. She's nice. Now, this movement is what's going to go on inside the gun. So as it moves, all right, our engineers have gone ahead when they made this fixture all the way up, it's going to be maximum, all the way down is going to be maximum. You're not going to want it in between or it's not going to work. Okay, so you're going to go just 2. This is the part where we need our handy dandy blue Loctite. Shake her up. Now, as you guys like to know, I know it's going to make a mess. So if you pre-make the mess, it ain't going to hurt your feelings, all right? Now, this fixture is well designed, okay? Our engineers took a lot of thought into it. Each firearm is a little different. So if you put this max fixture on here and you follow the instructions to a T and you feel that your trigger is going all the way to the rear but just not far enough to discharge it, you can go ahead and just back your screw out a little bit, okay? When installing it, you're going to push this all the way in, push this all the way up, and then you're going to just screw it in until you feel it hit that bar. You can feel it, all right? You see the bars moving when I twist this. So you're going to want to back it just to the edge. Bam. You feel right where it makes contact. Now you're going to do the same thing, but for the bottom. So I'm going to take the screw, put on this little Allen key, roll it around in some of this here Loctite, push this all the way down, and here's a little hole. You're going to insert this right in the hole, just like so. And once again, you're going to go until it hits. You'll know when it hits, because once you start twisting it, see how that bar wants to move? All right, so I'm going to back it out until it's right on the edge. Boop. All right, right on the edge. Okay, now it's set to its maximum set. All right, take that off there, let it sit for a little bit. I'm gonna take one of these microfiber cloths, clean up my area. If you get the polishing kit, the bundle, it'll actually come with some compound, some felt bits, and it'll actually come with this here fiber cloth. We got the Loctite, we got this nice and set in here, moves nice and smoothly, everything's good to go. We want to put this back together. Looking at this, what do we remember? See, this is wrong, because when it's in the gun, you want it to curl up, right? Curl up, baby. So I'm gonna go ahead, preset this in here like that. And then I'm gonna come over, put this in here, like so. I want to note, you see how that sits sideways? It's not supposed to. It's got to sit like this. Sideways bad, right in the groove. So you'll see a little groove here, that's how you're going to want it. So when you're putting this in here, you're going to want to check, make sure that it's sitting in the groove. All right, so you're going to pull, rotate it out. So you got to rotate it out, rotate it back in. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you're just going to look in here and see if it's sitting in that groove. If it's canted to the side, as this one is, I can't really show you. If the spring is sitting to the side, you're going to have all kinds of issues. You're going to take this little flathead, you're just going to push that down until it's nice and aligned properly. All right, and this one is. You can also adjust it by pulling this back out and refixing it on there. All right, and then see if you can get it to stay in place. All right, now you got this together. Oh no, oh, there we go, bam. Go ahead, put her in the frame. So you're gonna take your frame, drop this in, you're gonna wanna drop your trigger in, just like so. Bam, this trigger is in, beautiful. Now, if you want, you can go ahead, take your little pin, secure this in place, that way things aren't moving all about. If you can't really push yours in with your finger, well, once you get it set, take your 3/32 punch, and then you can kind of get it nice and squared up in there. So your extractor only goes one way, like so. Go ahead, take your block. Got double ones, these go forward. These big hunkin' pieces down into the rear. All right, so I'll go just like so. From here, you can go ahead, put your trigger pin in. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. I don't know if you can see in there, but if you look in this hole, all right, see right there? That moving back and forth is this slide lock. That's why it might have gave you trouble coming out. So now, it might give you trouble going in. You got 2 grooves. Common sense would say, putting it through both grooves going this way, it's gonna be a lot harder than putting it in this way to where you only gotta line up 1 groove. So, I'm gonna put it right to left, but once again, you skin that cat however you want. All right, she's in place. Boom, 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 locked in here. We're gonna take our metal pin. This is the one where it's got 2 fat sides and a thin middle. All right, you're gonna feed this in, and right as it comes through, it's gonna make contact with the spring in here. If you'll look, you'll see this is your slide lock spring. So when you start to punch this through, get it going, you're gonna see it's gonna wanna catch on your spring. So you're gonna wanna push down and let your spring go underneath it, okay? Push that spring down and underneath, all right? Well, she's wanting to be stubborn, so I'm gonna give her a little more surface. Oh, there she went. She went under her own. See how it's underneath here? Some I'm gonna protrude a little more than others. So if yours is extremely visible, that should be fine. If you can barely see it, as long as you can and you know it's underneath the pin, you're gonna be good to go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead, put her slide on. Just lock it to the rear, do a couple racks, and then you can feel that trigger, right? So you're gonna wanna come, bang, let it go forward, and it resets right there. That's it. That's all I gotta move it. All right, so let's do a trigger pull on this bad boy. Normally, if you ever call me up, I'll always tell you, you should put a couple rounds through it, then do your trigger pull. That way, you can let your spring set in. But we're gonna go ahead and just do one now. Ooh, 3 pounds, 2 ounces. 3 pound, 4 ounces. 3 pound, 4 ounces. 3 pounds, 3. Oh, that one's 3.5. I think I pulled a little bit on the end there, but we're averaging 3 pounds, 4 ounces, 3 pounds, 3 ounces. Like I said, everything just went in here. So after you put a couple magazines through, it's actually gonna come down a few more ounces and it's gonna settle out there. Now that we have our firearm put together and stuff, before I go and do a little test fire, I'm gonna want to do a little bit of lubrication, all right? So, firearm's clear. I'm gonna take this apart. So, places to lube, places you see that are going to rub and wear. Some people like to apply it directly to the slide, others are going to want to do their lugs. With striker fired guns, I prefer using grease instead of CLP or any thin, oily, or watery lubricant. Reason being, in most striker fired user manuals, it'll tell you, make sure you don't get any kind of lubricant or anything in your striker channel because it will cause light strikes. So with the grease, I don't really have to worry about the gun getting hot and then it running all over the place and getting in places it shouldn't be. The grease usually kind of sticks to where it wants. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some right here in the slide channel. All right, you don't gotta do too much, but just a little bit there. I'm gonna come in here. If you can get your little grease on the inside, I'm gonna get it or wedge it in between the frame and your trigger bar here. That's always a good place to put some lubricant. And then if you can also put some down in, around, and on your trigger because that trigger is gonna wanna do what? It's gonna wanna move. So once you put some lubricant in those little areas, oh my goodness, that is significantly better. Let's go do a test fire. So we're doing our test fire to the Glock. We just put in all our parts for the Gen 3, and we're going to use a standard Florida 30 round mag. All right. Easy peasy, baby. If you guys have any thoughts or wants, you know, maybe a Gen 3 extended mag release, anything like that, new slide barrel. If there's anything you guys are interested in, you know, let us know. Thanks for watching.